Alright, so today I'm going to try to demonstrate a little bit of drawing techniques with Prismacolor, and I might mix a little bit of watercolor in there for this. This is probably not the way I'd normally be drawing because I'm going to be mixing up a bunch of different techniques for you guys to see and hopefully learn different ways of working with these media. So what I'm going to start with is I've got this photograph, and I'm going to try to render this a little bit in Prismacolor and a little watercolor maybe. And I'm going to start off with, let me put this down, I'm going to start off with my drawing. And here's a real quick sketch. I'm trying to work out where the lights and darks are going to go and that kind of thing. So your initial drawings are really important because you want to try to get everything where it's supposed to be in the final piece. When I'm ready to do it now, I'm going to transfer that to a piece of Bristol board. This is a really good heavy piece of Bristol board, so it's going to take my Prismacolor really well, and it's going to take my watercolor also fairly nicely because I'm not going to put down the watercolor too wet on here. I'm just trying to put some pigment down generally that I'm going to be mixing in with the Prisma. All right, so here's the piece. Here's my photograph. I'm going to keep my photograph reference really close by so I can see what I'm doing. And let's get into this a little bit. Just so that it gets dry quickly, I'm going to lay down some of the watercolor first in some of these places to let that start to dry, and then I will get in here and show you how we're going to also then apply that to my Prismacolor. Alright, so I've got my watercolors here, getting out a good medium-sized brush. I don't need a huge brush for this, and I don't need a really small brush for this either. Just a good medium brush, like a number 6, something like that, 5 or 6. All right. So here's a good brush I'll start with, and I'm just going to lay down some basic some tones. So I'm going to look at my drawing here, or my photograph here, and I've got just a really light green going on in this pear, which is really beautiful. So I'm just going to mix up a really very, very light, kind of yellowy green and lay this down in here really pretty lightly because I'm just trying to set some tone into the paper. We come back with a little bit more yellow here along that edge. And then when it gets down into the middle of the pear, it's really, really light. So I'm just going to put down just a little bit of tone into here. And basically all this is doing is getting rid of the white on the paper and just setting a little bit of the color into the piece. That I can then build on. Now if you're doing this with Prismacolor on top, I think it's really a good idea to not make your colors too dark at this point because it's hard to come back with the Prisma and make it lighter. It's always easier to make it darker. Here on this photograph I also have some really beautiful red onions. So I'm going to put some, which are not really all that red, they're a lot more of a purple. So I'm going to mix up some purple, kind of a warm purple though, and lay a little bit of that into here too. Some of these places I'm not going to put any watercolor, so you can see how I'm working that way as well. So just start to lay this pigment down. You want to be always looking at your reference and figuring out where the lights and darks are. Back in here it gets really, underneath this leaf it gets really dark, so I might just go ahead and lay a dark edge into here. And then this photograph also has some pecans. And the pecans are a really red, umbery brown, so I might work in just a little bit of that into this as well. Back here it gets really dark, so I'm going to just go ahead and put that in. I'm going to leave the light areas a little bit lighter at this point. Maybe a little oranger. Really get that roasted pecan kind of feel. Maybe smooth some of these edges out. Just a little bit. And maybe a little bit of the green of the spinach leaves that we have. Now I'm not trying to be too perfect with this. I mean, I want to get the edges where I want them, but I don't really care too much about the detail yet, because that's where I'm going to come back with the Prisma and really establish my details with the Prismacolor. Really nice green back behind here where the spinach comes in. I'll establish a little of this green too. Now it's a really beautiful day today, so I'm trying to do some of this outside. If it gets loud, I might move indoors and trying to not have us be too distracted. All right, so I'm just working this loosely with the watercolor at this point. So I'm going to put this aside, let it dry a little bit, and then I'll come back and I'll show you how to get in with the Prisma.